Good afternoon to all present in this memorial hall and to those who are connecting to this occasion via the live streaming of the proceedings. My name is Royston Pillay. I'm the University Registrar, and it falls to me to fulfill the role of Program Director for this occasion. We assemble here today in a time of much sadness, pain, and profound grief as we mourn the passing of a colleague and friend, Professor Bongani Mayosi. But also as we celebrate a life that touched so many more lives through a combination of brilliance and humility that he so abundantly personified. We gather as a community of multiple constituencies and many individuals, all of whom are here because Professor Mayosi meant something special to each of us. I wish to welcome warmly Professor Nonhlanhla Khumalo and your daughters, Sibieli, Kamagu, and Nosipo, Mrs. Mayosi Sr., brother and sisters Sipho Mayosi, Kutala Mayosi, and Kumisa Mayosi, and of course members of the members of the Mayosi and the Khumalo families. I acknowledge the presence here today of members of the University Council, the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Mamokgethi Phakeng, and members of the university community at large, the UCT leadership Lekgotla, the staff, academic and professional, and our students. Colleagues from the Faculty of Health Sciences, the faculty that Professor Mayosi led, dignitaries from government and other universities from the rest of the country, professional medical bodies from across the country and the world, many of whom are present through the live stream via the UCT website. I now ask that you please all stand as we commence our paying tribute to Professor Mayosi with a moment of silent personal reflection. Thank you. Please be seated. Today's memorial will include contributions from the South African College of Music here at UCT, and this is meaningful as we know that members of the Mayosi family have many close relationships with members of the South African College of Music. I call on the UCT choir to deliver their rendition of Ukuthula, in which is embedded messages of peace, of redemption, of praise, of gratefulness, of faith, victory, and comfort. The UCT choir.
How
thank you to the UCT choir for that beautiful rendition of Ukutula. Professor Mayosi stayed in touch with many people, with very many students, and certainly with the students from his faculty, representing many attributes to them as a scholar, as an advisor, as a teacher, and as a confidant. The Vice-Chairperson of the Postgraduate Students' Council in the Faculty of Health Sciences is Moses Isiagi, and I invite him to the platform to offer his tribute to Professor Mayosi. Moses spoke with elegance and extraordinary compassion on Monday past at the gathering of members of the Faculty of Health Sciences. I call on Mr. Isiagi to pay tribute to Professor Mayosi.
The Vice-Chancellor, ministers, the students, the staff, the entire UCT community, and the world over, I welcome you here. And before I continue, I would just like us to sing one chorus as we remember our father and our dean. Please join me. It is well with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul. It is well, indeed, it is well with our souls. One thing that death teaches us about life is that life is like a desert wildflower. It quickly springs up, and in the same way, quickly fades away. We're in mourning of a great icon, a great dean, a great father, a colleague, above all, a mentor. As a desert wildflower, he arose through the difficult times that we've had as UCT in the last 3 years, in the times of fees must fall, in the times where we wanted a transformation, in the times where we wanted a decolonization of the education system. I remember vividly, as we marched to Parliament, he did not march behind us or ahead of us. He marched closely with us. And in marching, you could see the passion, you could see the perseverance in him. I just have 3 things that I would like to highlight from his life as he taught us. One of them, as an academic, he gave us the principles and the virtues of excellence. He gave us tenacity, perseverance in teaching us in class, in the ward rounds and all. And that is why we're the best faculty in UCT. That is why we have UCT as the best institution in Western Cape. That is why we have UCT as the best institution in South Africa. And that is why we have UCT as the very best institution in Africa, and amongst the top in the world. The second thing that I would like to highlight from his life is he was a devoted father and a devoted husband. As a devoted husband, we worked closely with his wife, as students, as colleagues, and from it you could see that he was a man that loved family. For those of us that studied with his daughter, we saw that he genuinely loved his daughter, of which some of us, being the African black child we have missed with absentee fathers, we saw that this father genuinely loved his daughter. And I urge us as UCT to embrace what he had. Finally, as a devoted counselor, teacher, guide, you'd easily go to his office and tell him, "Habari gani baba," that's in Swahili. You tell him unjani, and my favorite, Sutu, Dumela Ntate. And of course he would answer. Then he would ask for my response, and the very best that I would give him was, "Kikatete ntate, kela pile." And that's for every student. On a Monday morning, you're tired and you're hungry. But in this, you would see that he genuinely loved you, and these principles of compassion he had. And one thing I learned from all that is that being vulnerable is not a weakness. Being vulnerable is a controlled strength. Yes, it may come with emotional exposure and the rest, but being vulnerable to someone gives us a strength. And like I said, he was a desert wildflower that quickly rose up. Last week, this wildflower faded away from us. And what we can learn as a student body, as UCT, and as the rest of Africa, is that he maximized his life. And today, I urge us, he left a candle burning. Can we please maximize our lives? And the final thing I would like to say is he lived a life of purpose. And truth be told, the purpose of life is a life of purpose. So I urge us to have a life of purpose. I would like to leave us with a scripture that says, the glory of the latter house shall be more than the glory of the former house. And as he has left excellence, we shall be greater. UCT shall stand. And for all of us that are remaining here, I urge us to carry the principles that he left with us. The principles of perseverance, the principles of tenacity, the principles of excellence, and the principles of Ubuntu and family. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Isiagi. The university was very important to Professor Mayosi. The faculty was very important. The schools of the faculty and the departments of the faculty were very important to Professor Mayosi. The Department of Medicine in the faculty was particularly important and special to Professor Mayosi, and he was very special to it. I call on Professor Ntobeko Ntusi, the current head of the Department of Medicine, to reflect on Professor Mayosi's role within the faculty.
What does one say at the remembrance of someone who was so remarkable and special in every possible way? Professor Bongani Mayosi lived his life to the full, and by so doing, touched the lives of many all over the world. As I sat with his wife last night, I remarked, it was as if he had lived the lives of 3 people. He had thought deeply about the fundamental problems of this world and what contributions he could make. He was on a mission and lived his life with a sense of urgency. His vision of transforming societies and improving health through research was a grand one and needed urgent delivery. Borrowing from the words of Frantz Fanon, Bongani believed that each one of us needed to produce, to invent, to build, and to work to secure a brighter future for medicine and health in Africa. Professor Mayosi spent most of his adult life affiliated to Sathekge Hospital and the Faculty of Health Sciences at the University of Cape Town. I have known him for 17 of those 27 years spent in Cape Town. He worked as a medical registrar, a cardiology registrar, and a consultant cardiologist. Between 2006 and 2016, he served as the 7th chair and head of the Department of Medicine at the University of Cape Town and Sathekge Hospital, before taking up the role of Dean of the Faculty of Health Sciences in the last 2 years. As a clinician, he was second to none. He was loved by his patients, who remembered his gentle and impeccable bedside manner. He had a profound and encyclopedic knowledge of medicine. As a researcher, he was a global leader in his field. He had published over 350 peer-reviewed papers and book chapters with over 40,000 citations. And he was only one of a handful of A-rated scientists in this country. As examples of his academic brilliance, he performed the definitive work that clarified the appropriate diagnostic strategy and role of adjunctive steroids in the management of tuberculous pericarditis. He initiated, supervised, and published work that discovered several novel genetic mutations that cause cardiovascular disease, as well as an inherited systemic fibrosing condition for which a genetic test is now available in clinical practice to confirm the diagnosis of this hitherto obscure disease. As a teacher, he was legendary. His knowledge of the cardiovascular system was outstanding, but he was revered by undergraduate students for his approach to teaching neurology. He had graduated over 30 master's and doctoral students whom he provided supervision for. All of them will remember him as a caring supervisor who invested substantially in them and created opportunities that would define their careers. Many of the students have gone on to be leaders in academia, industry, government, in this country, on the continent, and globally. I speak as one of his students. As a leader, Bongani was awesome. His brand of leadership was honest, inspiring, full of integrity, and characterized by creativity and innovation. His commitment and passion were evident at all times. He believed there was no problem that could not be solved. He played the long game and always reminded me, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a few steps. As an advocate, he made seminal contributions to health policy and practice in several important areas. Appointed by the Academy of the Sciences of South Africa to chair a consensus panel on the revitalization of clinical research and related training in South Africa, he published a report which significantly shaped the policy framework for health research in this country. He has translated his research on rheumatic fever into policies adopted by the African Union, the World Heart Federation, the World Health Organization, and the World Health Assembly. During his time at Groote Hospital and in the Faculty of Health Sciences at UCT, he transformed the Department of Medicine and left it as the largest and leading Department of Medicine on the African continent. He amassed countless awards, prizes, honors, accolades, and research breakthroughs, making him firmly ensconced as one of the leading global academics of our time. He was elected to numerous learned societies on the basis of his scientific and professional achievements, and had fellowships to the Pan-African Society of Cardiology, the European Society of Cardiology, the American College of Cardiology, the Royal College of Physicians, the World Academy of Arts and Science, the American Academy of Arts and Science, and the Academy of Sciences of South Africa, amongst many others. I remember him as a dear friend, a mentor and confidant. I remember him for tireless dedication to a great cause. And I salute him for a life of integrity, humility, outstanding intelligence, and absolute pursuit of knowledge and truth. So how will the Faculty of Health Sciences at UCT and Groote Hospital remember Bongani? He will be remembered as a consummate professional and the epitome of hard work. As a leader, he was exemplary, a man with immense dignity and an infectious optimism. A visionary who imagined an Africa far capable of driving its own agenda and using science to improve the health of its nations. He will be remembered for his absolute love of the students in this faculty and in this university. His fundamental drive was the transformation of society through the investment in future generations of scientists, physicians, and future leaders. He will be remembered for his absolute love of the hospital, the Department of Medicine, the Faculty of Health Sciences, and this university. Those who knew him well and those who hardly knew him spoke of their love for the man and their overwhelming sense of his affection towards them. He will be remembered for his unwavering belief in the potential of others and for his excellence in research and translation of that research into work with a meaningful impact. His ultimate belief was that science should be a vehicle for social and political change, and ultimately a vehicle for economic upliftment. As he often reminded us, health comes before wealth. But above all, I believe that he will be remembered for the absolute love of his family. He was a devoted father and husband, and never missed an opportunity to share how much his family meant to him. To me and to many others, he spoke often of the gratitude he had for the support of his wife and the love he received from his daughters, who he constantly referred to as his pride and joy. May his life be a lesson for us all. May the past few months be a reminder that we should constantly seek a kinder and gentler way of engaging with each other. May his untimely demise be a rallying call for us all to accelerate his legacy and to always strive for the principles that he stood for. And may we all endeavor to produce, to invent, to build, and to work to secure a brighter future for our continent. And may his family find solace in his achievements and the impact he has had on countless lives all over the world. Lala ngoxolo Rhadebe, phumla ngoxolo qhawe lamaqhawe, oko ubuthunywe nguThixo ukugqibile, umzamo omhle uwenzile, ugqatso ulufezile. Enkosi.
Thank you, Professor Ntusi, for the profound message. On arrival at the venue today, we were welcomed by the accompanying music of Jazz Between Friends. I'm going to invite the members of Jazz Between Friends to come back onto the podium and offer a dedication to Professor Mayosi, and to do so through their music. They will do a song by Winston Ngozi. It is often said that the quality of who you are is to be measured by the quality of the impact you have had. It is very clear that Professor Mayosi has had a huge impact on very, very many different fronts. He certainly, as we have heard and will continue to hear, made a huge impact on UCT. He most certainly made a huge impact beyond UCT. Present today are people, colleagues, with whom he had worked and collaborated on a number of major groundbreaking projects, locally, nationally, and internationally. I would like to call upon Professor Mike Sathekge of the Colleges of Medicine of South Africa to reflect on Professor Mayosi's contribution to science and research excellence.
Chairperson, the UCT community, the Colleges of Medicine of South Africa and medical researchers, and of importance to Sis Nonhlanhla, the daughters, and the Mayosi family and Kumalo family. We're meeting here today to really celebrate the giant, an icon, and our hero. So I'm here with the board of the Colleges of Medicine to pay our respect to him because he meant a lot to us. He has done a lot to us. This is the person, as an outstanding physician, he has made sure that indeed the Colleges of Medicine can be respected outside. What has he done? Since 2002, Bongani served at various roles of the Colleges of Medicine. He started as the president of the College of Physicians. He served as the registrar of the college, in which he had to determine some of the policies that we are using today. So Bongani also convened one of the most important meetings that we had with academic leaders all over, the Golden Jubilee. In that meeting, Bongani made sure that South Africa was seen as a front player in influencing what has to be the standards of medicine. But then, that is not all. Today, as the Colleges of Medicine, we are having what we call national professional examinations. Bongani is somebody who was committed to excellence. He said, we cannot have a standard for Stellenbosch, for UCT, for Pretoria, for Wits. We have to have a common standard, and that is the highest standard. So in so doing, we've got to have examinations that are the same, and that would make sure that a South African doctor can give quality healthcare to people. And that in itself, it is one of the biggest legacy that we are having. Why did he do that? Clearly, I mean, you would want to be treated by somebody that would not only be looking at you as a patient, but to look beyond what is happening today. Because as he did that, as he was the pioneer of the national professional examinations, he ensured that as well, the clinician should be somebody who is well-rounded, who is grounded in research. So you shouldn't just have the fellowship, but you should have the research methodology. And of course, as you have heard, to make sure that the death of clinician researchers can be abated, he therefore made sure that we can actually revitalize that. He has, in the fraternity of MRC, been somebody who was the advisor to the board of the MRC, to the CEO of the MRC. We have looked upon him as somebody that would actually make us go further, and we have often called on him to say, what can we do when we do have a new strategy of funding projects? And we have served together with him on various of those projects. And how did he become one of those people that were chairing and pioneering those projects? Because, of course, there will be a lot of people that would want to be associated with Bongani because of his excellence. He didn't want to take the money for himself. That's an important aspect. He wanted to get the funding to be distributed to the poor, to those that need it the most. And that's an excellent thing that many of us are not doing, and we should make sure that we emulate that situation. He has served not only in the Colleges of Medicine and the Medical Research Council, but in the continent. He served as well as the chairperson of the World Health Organization, the Afro component, advising the regional director. In that would link institutions like the MRC to make sure that we can start to work with everyone. Similarly, in the colleges of medicine, he made us to be motivated to work with other African colleges so that, again, we can have high standard and one standard for everyone. So this is a person that I've looked upon as a brother, a person that I have looked upon as a mentor as well, and then a person that I've looked upon as somebody that I can turn out to get advices. And it's not for me only, but for the colleges as well as for the researchers at the MRC. If you look at what he has done during his oration, when we called him at the colleges of medicine to speak to us, he has said to us, what can we make as a difference? And his title was Make Your Mark on Healthcare. He has encouraged us that we should contribute to healthcare. And that's what, as students and as future researchers, we should look up to Bongani to say, there will be problems, there will be issues, but do not cast the darkness. Rather focus on lighting the candle. And that's how he actually had operated when there were difficulties. He's somebody that would get the solution. When we had difficulties with students wanting to revert back to separate university examinations, he also advised the colleges to say, embark on a scientific diagnostic process to try and find out what is the problem so that you can actually make a solution that will be long-lasting, that will be helpful to everyone. And this is what we were doing. We have always followed the situations and the advices that he has given us. He has made sure that we can transform the lives of others. So to the students and to the researchers here, we clearly have to look up to him to say we have to develop those around us. That is the real success, and you can see his success. It was by developing those around him. And indeed, we as the college and the Medical Research Council, we are saying that we are proud to have been part and parcel of the Mayosi legacy. And this Mayosi legacy is profound, and it will be known as something that will inspire us in medicine and in scholarship forever and ever. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Sathekge. The South African Committee of Medical Deans plays a very important role in the medical universities in South Africa and in the health landscape of our country. Professor Mayosi was a key member of this committee, and I now call on Professor Martin Veller, in his capacity as the chairperson of the South African Committee of Medical Deans, to deliver his tribute.
Nonhlanhla, the Mayosi and Khumalo families, Professor Phaahla and the UCT community, and in particular our sister faculty of health sciences here at UCT, your loss is the nation's loss. It's Africa's loss, it's the world's loss. A giant in academic medicine has fallen. Our heartfelt condolences from the South African Committees of Medical, Health Sciences and Dental Deans, and from all of our constituencies. Despite the untold grief, it is impossible not to reflect on what Bongani's life, and in particular his remarkable achievements, has meant to so many. From the health sciences academic world, it is noted that while having walked in the footsteps of remarkable parents and a family, he was able to transcend from his rural roots to excel at university and eventually to reach the pinnacle of an internationally acclaimed academic career. This meteoric trajectory was based on his brilliant intellect, a remarkable work ethic, and incredible productivity. Nothing he engaged with was done without a full commitment. He was also characterized by the interest and delight he took in academia. Who of us working in cardiovascular medicine will forget what it meant to him when one of his great discoveries was published? All of this was, however, grounded on his remarkable humaneness, his ability to connect and to connect others. None will forget his characteristic smile and the abiding generosity when meeting him. It is also hard to overlook the pride he took in his students and how he looked for and nurtured the next generation of great academic achievers. The possibilities lost by this young, remarkable life departed are just staggering. From the Committee of Dean's perspective, while he was one of us, he also was the epitome of a clinician scientist, a rather rare breed. He deservedly had a reputation that placed him amongst the very, very best medical academics South Africa has ever produced. What characterized his national contributions was his zeal to help address the public health crisis facing this country. This he did by never compromising in his belief that clinical excellence is the pillar of a good healthcare system. He also ensured that clinical research, particularly translational at the coalface, is an essential element in achieving an equitable healthcare system for this country. He truly served the people of South Africa, and for this he aptly received the country's highest recognition. Bongani, from your fellow deans, paraphrasing the Roman poet Catullus, Brother Bongani, since fate has callously taken you and cheated us of your company, here are the conventional customs, our traditional offerings. And going further in Latin, Acipe fraterno multum manatia fletu, ateque in perpetuum, frata, ave, ateque vale. This translated, receive our wet familial tears, our last greetings, and our everlasting goodbye.
Thank you for that tribute, Professor Veller. Professor Mayosi had many links with the South African Health Ministry and government departments, and they with him. The Deputy Minister of Health is present, and I invite Dr. Mathume Phaahla to reflect on the impact of Professor Mayosi's contribution as experienced by the Health Ministry and related government departments.
Thank you very much, Program Director. Let me pass my greetings to the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Cape Town, Professor Ntobeko, the Mayosi family, and the Khumalo family, especially Bongani's dear wife, Nonhlanhla, and the children. The Chairperson of the South African Committee of Deans, Prof. Martin Veller, who spoke just earlier on, Prof. Mike Sathekge, all other academics and colleagues of Prof. Mayosi here at UCT and from other institutions, and of course, his most important constituency, the students of UCT, and in particular, those from the health sciences. It was in the late afternoon of last Friday when we were anticipating the eclipse of the moon, when many of us got the devastating news about the passing of Prof. Mayosi. And as is normal with the shocking news, you start by hoping that indeed maybe it's a mistake, that somebody didn't get it right, that it might be a wrong identity. But as time moves on, you come to accept that indeed this is true. Let me first pass my personal condolences and also the condolences of the Ministry of Health and the department to Prof. Mayosi's partner, Prof. Nonhlanhla, and the children, the Mayosi and Khumalo families, friends of the family, colleagues, students here at UCT, especially the health sciences, colleagues in the health sector, and also fellow alumni from our alma mater, the University of KwaZulu-Natal, where I was yesterday, also spoke at a very moving memorial service with colleagues from the University of KwaZulu-Natal. On the 17th of July, just a little over 2 weeks ago, we spent just over 2 hours together at the University of Stellenbosch at the graduation ceremony for the medical students who graduated from Cuban medical schools and completed their integration at our local medical schools. We had a few moments to exchange some pleasantries before we joined the academic procession. And I thought we would have more time to chat over on a number of issues during lunch, as we often would do whenever we had an opportunity to meet with Bongani. But unfortunately, for maybe work pressure, he was unable to join us during the lunch, which was hosted by the Dean of Medicine at Stellenbosch, Professor Jimmy Volmink. I did not think that this was any serious train smash, because I had already had a notice that Prof. Veller was convening a meeting of the Committee of Deans, at which I would be asked to come and discuss with them progress with the integration of our students who have come from Cuba to do their final year. So I was looking forward to that. Least did I know that, unfortunately, this would be the last time that I will be seeing Bongani alive. Bongani was indeed, as speakers before me have alluded to, a very rare breed, I would say, not just a rare breed in South Africa, but I would dare to say the world over. Since his passing, a lot has been written about his exceptional nature, but I'm certain that a lot more is still going to be written by the students he has produced as undergraduates and also as postgraduates, and also many more of the colleagues he has worked with. The fact that he started his first year at medical school at the age of 16, at that time I was doing my final year, and that after completing his second year, he broke from normal studies and went to do research. So Prof. Sathekge, Bongani's research appetite did not start at postgraduate. He broke away from after completing second year to go and do research. And yesterday, as the Dean of KwaZulu-Natal Medical School was reflecting, who was also a classmate, said that they thought he was crazy because, anybody who's gone through medical school knows that, you struggle in the first year coming from high school. Second year, it's a killer. Anatomy, physiology, and all that. That's where, it separates boys from men and girls, women from girls. And once you've gone through that, you really want to accelerate and complete and finish. Go into your clinical and get over with it. Then here is this young man, people who have passed their second years are really very happy about it. They want to get over with it. He then takes a break and goes and do research and complete a BSc in medicine in that process. And then comes back and joined the next class. And then by the time the class completed in 1989, he was just exceptional, as pictures were shown all over in the media, with more than 5 cum laudes and awards in that year. I know that it hurts more than just the passing, but also the manner in which he passed away. It is natural under these circumstances, especially for those who have been intimate, family members, friends, colleagues, to have a lot of questions. It's natural to have many questions in our minds. Questions such as, did we fail him? Couldn't we have done something better? Could we have intervened? I know that close colleagues here at UCT, and talking to my colleague, Minister Mtsoaledi, just a few hours after we got the news, he made me aware that there had been some in the discussions with the VC and also with Prof. Glenda Gray of the Medical Research Council, that there were some discussions realizing that Bongani was under some pressure to discussing with him to see if there could be other alternative areas where his expertise could be used. But unfortunately, he departed before any of those plans could be implemented. And when we were in Stellenbosch on the 17th, during the graduation ceremony, for some flash moment, I also did just get a quick concern, but I dismissed it because we were sitting on the podium and he was sitting with other colleagues on the front row. And, the graduation ceremony, for those who have been of our student from Cuba, is very exciting. The families are ululating and it's a very bubbly environment. And for some reason, as I was looking, because we were sitting almost opposite each other, I just noticed that he was not catching the excitement as much as everybody and some of the people around. But, I got concerned for a while, but I just dismissed it. I said, I'm sure it's not much, nothing much, we'll talk during lunch. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say that Bongani's short life confirms to many of us that, unfortunately, people of a special breed, geniuses like him, unfortunately, don't tend to live much long. There are many examples in history. If you think of William Shakespeare, who passed away at the age of 52, even in other areas, in the entertainment area, Bob Marley died at 36. In the business area, Steve Jobs died at 56. And also the icon of entertainment, Michael Jackson, passed away at 50. And so, in his short life of 51 years, Bongani contributed to South Africa and made achievements which many of us who may live much longer can only appreciate with envy. This is even more, as has been mentioned, somebody who growing up from a rural area in the apartheid era, breaking so many barriers, and even in the new South Africa, seizing all the opportunities, even though we know that even in our democratic era, there are still many barriers and many challenges, but he made sure that he excels throughout those. I'm here to say to the family and to all the friends and colleagues that on behalf of our health fraternity, the government, and the people of South Africa, I want to assert that we are very grateful for the contribution of this giant of South African medicine, science, research, and teaching. He may have been a small somebody in stature, but we consider him to have, his contribution to have been very monumental and colossal. Prof. Mayosi was also a true public servant. And I believe that when President Ramaphosa speaks of Tuma Mina, send me, this message just came when Bongani was already practicing it. He had already answered the call to say, send me, because whenever there was a challenge, he would be ready to go and do what he can do best to help the people. Despite heavy responsibilities, he never refused to serve in other areas in the public service, including in the Health Professions Council, where he served in many responsibilities, the College of Physicians, as already mentioned, the National Health Research Committee, which he was chairing, the Pan-African Society of Cardiology, and also, as already mentioned, as chairman of the Rheumatic Fever Council of the World Health Foundation. This is just a few of those contributions which he led, institution where he played a leading role. The numerous honors and awards he received in his short life serve as testimony that indeed he was very special. Amongst those being the National Order of Mapungubwe in silver, which he received as early as 2009. I know it's difficult to reconcile with the reality that someone so dear to us has departed in such unexpected circumstances. But I want to appeal to all of us to rally behind the family, give them strength and courage. We must accept the fact that he has run a good race and he has finished at a time determined for him. He has kept his faith up to the end. What is left for us is to pick up his spear, take over the baton, and continue the race towards good quality health services for all our people. Bongani could have been a multi-millionaire many times over if he had chosen to use his God-given talents to make money. But he didn't choose that. He chose to serve the people up to the end. He could have settled anywhere else outside South Africa. He could have settled in the US. He could have settled in Canada. He could have gone to Australia, New Zealand, to the UK, anywhere. They would have received him with open arms. But instead, he chose to serve poor people, poor communities. He chose to serve poor students from poor communities, from Guguleto, from Eastern Cape, from Limpopo. He chose to stay even when it was difficult, during the difficult times of the feast must fall. I remember talking to him at Prof. Veller's premise when they had the SACOM meeting in those difficult times in 2016. He wasn't even sure whether they will be able to complete examinations. But even when he went through that, he never gave up because he was committed to serve the people. So let us make sure that his life and now his passing is not in vain. He has gone to have eternal peace, and the ball is now in the court of those of us who remain. Go well, my brother. Sithi hamba kahle o Hadebe, Bongani, Hlubi, ndlebentle zombili. May his soul rest in eternal peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Minister, and thank you for your message, and thank you for being present. I now invite the UCT choir to give us the opportunity to hear my prayer. South African College of Music, UCT Choir. That was absolutely wonderful. Thank you very much. I invite Professor Mamokgethi Phakeng, the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Cape Town, to reflect on how Professor Mayosi's leadership role at UCT and how in everything he did, he sought to teach, to lead, and to create opportunities for others. Professor Phakeng.
Colleagues, friends, students, the Mayosi and the Khumalo families, thank you for coming together with all of us on this sad occasion. We represent many groups, languages, backgrounds, and organizations, joining with Professor Mayosi's family, his students, and colleagues to mourn his sudden passing. We are united in grief by his great loss, this great loss of our friend, our colleagues, a man who gave his utmost to help others. Professor Mayosi worked beside us. He led us, he taught us, and urged us to do our best. As an activist, he marched with us, engaging with protesters and management to advance transformation. He did not just call for change, he was change. In his life and in his work, he set an example for us. In his eyes, students were future leaders and colleagues were partners in saving and shaping lives. His vision was to help build a strategic and systemic approach to medical training and professional development in Africa. He had a sense of urgency about his vision that he passed on to others. I believe that it was his vision for transformation that prompted Professor Mayosi to ask me to put my name forward for the Vice-Chancellorship when I wasn't interested in it. He made time to convince me to do it. And he convinced me that it was for the good of the university and higher education that I apply as a black woman academic. And he emphasized that. As a black woman academic, it is important that you apply now. To honor his memory, I want to extend to you the challenge he gave to me to be the change that you want to see in UCT, to reflect on this tragedy, to learn from it, how we can better support one another, even in this difficult time. To work together to transform this institution into a place where everyone contributes their best because they know they are valued, they know they belong here. As UCT changes, South Africa will be that much closer to the kind of transformation we want in our country, because this institution will produce graduates who are following Professor Mayosi's example, dedicating their lives to excellence and helping others to be excellent too. Of course, first we must help one another to heal from this tragedy, to be open with one another, truthful with one another, to learn how we can better support one another to create a community of care. Earlier this week, I said this is a time for reflection. And this time for reflection is an opportunity and a gift. But it comes with a responsibility. We are citizens of a young democracy. We are impatient for change, especially those of us who were oppressed during apartheid. We want change now. But change is not easy, and it doesn't come quickly. We are transforming old ways of thinking, of doing, of educating, of relating to each other, and it takes perseverance. Professor Mayosi had that kind of perseverance. He faced hurdles like the rest of us. You know, he liked to tell the story of how his groundbreaking study on tuberculosis pericarditis, known as the IMPI study, almost did not happen. He set up the study with colleagues in 19 hospitals in 8 African countries. He tried for 4 years to get finance for the study, but were turned down because funders said no one in the team had the experience for a clinical trial of that scale. In 2009, Professor Mayosi and his colleagues decided to do the study anyway, without funding. They investigated a total of 1,400 patients across Africa over 4 years. At the halfway point, Professor Mayosi's team finally received funding from the Canadian Institutes of Health Research. They completed the study, presented it at the European Society of Cardiology Congress, and published it in the New England Journal of Medicine. Their findings changed the way doctors around the world treat patients with tuberculosis pericarditis who also have HID. Just imagine that it started with the courage to start without funding, when no one thought you can do it because you don't have the capacity, or they couldn't fund it because you don't have the capability. The team set new standards for data quality and follow-up in large African clinical trials. As Professor Mayosi said, the study challenged the perception that Africans can't do it. Professor Mayosi did not just do research, he grew researchers. He grew his passion in the people who worked with him. The IMPI team had that passion. The team of researchers who identified the gene that caused a certain type of heart disease last year, led by Professor Mayosi, they have that passion. It is part of his legacy, passion. Prof. Mayosi represented Black excellence, living proof that Black scholars can be the best in whatever they do. He was that message walking around campus with us here. We can honor his legacy. We Black people can honor his legacy by becoming that message that was walking around on campus every day. His personal story could resonate with many of our students. He was born in Mthatha in the Eastern Cape and went with his father, who was a doctor, to visit patients in poor rural villages. He saw the struggles of Africans firsthand. He was inspired by his parents to get an education, to excel, and to help change people's lives. Colleagues, we have lost Professor Mayosi, but we have not lost his effect on us. That is something that we can nurture and feed and build into our lives so that his effect, his inspiration, can become a living part of us as individuals and as the UCT community. And that is what I'm asking UCT as a community to reflect on, to commit to. And in those moments of reflection, whether silent or spoken, we emulate Professor Mayosi, that we do so with dignity, compassion, integrity, and honesty, because that's what we need now. In that way, we can be his memorial at UCT and his gift to the world. To the Mayosi family, your loss is our loss, but his living memory will keep us going as we strive for that which he represented whilst with us. Nkosi.
Thank you, Vice-Chancellor. The profound power of voice and music will now be brought together by Phaahla Nkwanzi of UCT Opera and accompanied by Professor Tertia Downey on piano as they perform a piece from the composer Handel. Thank you, Phaahla and Tertia. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. I invite Kuthala Mayosi, member of the Mayosi family, who will now address us.
I shall pass this way but once. Any good I can do or any kindness I can show to any human being, let me do it now. Let me not defer nor neglect it, for I shall not pass this way again. This is a quote that I was given by Bongani when we were growing up. He used slogans, he used mottos to encourage us. At primary school level, our main motto was from a show, I think it was the David Gresham show. It said, keep your feet on the ground and reach for the stars. When Bongani was at high school, we used the quote. In fact, he brought a poster, Footprints in the Sand. So we had to memorize it. We had to learn from it. He would ask you, what does this mean to you? It must have meaning. This is how you must live your life, with meaning and purpose. My name is Kutala. Gigi is my brother. That's how we affectionately call him at home. Our parents, Nontle and Sikumbuzo, bore 5 children. Butsipo was the firstborn, 1965, Bongani Mayosi, 1967, myself, 1968, the late Tabokaya, 1970, our last born, Mumisa, 1971. So we come from a very big family. Our mother often tells us the story that when she got married, her mother-in-law sat her down and told her that abantwana balapha bahlanu. She was 26 years old at the time. So she had to promptly follow the instruction. And she started breeding. My father, Dr. Mayosi, was a district surgeon in Ngamakwe at the time, in the Eastern Cape. We grew up in the dusty streets, in the villages of the Eastern Cape, in Ngamakwe, in Fort Malan, Mthatha. That is the story of our lives. The Gigi, I know, had a passion for education from an early age. He and my brother, Butsipo, used to walk more than 20 kilometers a day to attend a school in Upper Ngulu village in Ngamakwe, because the only schools in town were for white people only. So one summer day in 1971, he was 4, I was 3. My mother could not find me anywhere in the house. She frantically looked for me, only to discover later that Bongani had taken me without consent to school. So the school, the classes were provided for in a town hall. So you had one grade A, standard A there in the corner, and then another class there in the corner, and another class there. At the time, there were 3 levels of standard A. U-A omncinci, u-A ophakathi, no A omkhulu. So Ubutsipo was in that corner, Bongani was somewhere in the other corner, and I was in another corner. So that worked very well for me. Now, as time went by, there were classes that were allocated to the different grades. That was a problem for me. I could not function unless Bongani was at an eye view. So they had to make special arrangements. The door was to be kept open so that I can see him. And that's how I started schooling at the age of 3. At home, my mother had 2 babies. So Bongani was teaching me to be independent. At the same time, he was trying to relieve my mother. He was trying to find solutions all the time from an early age. He used me as his guinea pig all the time. I had to follow. I had to just follow him. I had to learn all the mottos. Even when he started with student politics, we had to dance. When he comes back home, you must follow. You must follow. So that's how it has been throughout our student life, throughout the years. A lot has been said about Bongani's achievements, so I am not going to touch that. I am just going to touch the soft side of him. As family, we wish to convey our heartfelt gratitude. In this difficult time, messages of condolences that have been outpouring from different parts of the country and from the academic community are an indication that he made a big impact throughout his professional life. And I would just like to say to him, Khadebe Mtimkulu, Hlubi, may you rest in eternal repose. I would like to read Psalm 23. For those that have it online, they can read with me. Umhobe kaDavide. UYehova ngumalusi wam, andisweli lutho. Wenza ukuba mandibuthe emaxeweni aluhlaza. Undithundezela emanzini angawokuphumla. Uyawubuyisa umphefumlo wam. Undikhaphela ezindleleni zobulungisa ngenxa yegama lakhe. Nokuba ndihamba emfuleni wethunzi lokufa, andikoyika bubi, ngokuba unam wena. Intonga yakho nomsimelelo wakho uyandithuthuzela. Undilungisela isithebe phambi kwababandezeli bam. Uyandithambisa ngeoli intloko yam. Indebe yam iyaphalala. Inene ndiyakulandelwa kokulungileyo nenceba yonke imihla yobomi bam. Ndihlale endlini kaYehova imihla emide. Enkosi.
Thank you very much, Kutara. Thank you very much for your courage and for your sincerity. In closing today's memorial, I wish to call on the Professor Alison Lewis, who is the Dean of the Engineering and Built Environment Faculty here at UCT, to offer a vote of thanks, and in doing so, to also recognize a colleague in the wider deanery, Professor Mayosi.
A dean, or decanus in Latin, means master of 10, and was originally the head of a group of 10 soldiers or monks, as opposed to a centurion who was in charge of 100 in the ancient Roman army. Professor Bongani was more than a master of 10. He was a master of many, master of his vocation, master of trailblazing, master of training students and specialists, master of building connections with colleagues. He gave being a dean a good name. He was a scholarly dean in the best possible way, an A-rated scientist, an eminent researcher, and a socially responsive academic who astonished us with his intellect, his commitment, and his humanism. He was a hero. He was talented, courageous, successful, and kind. He worked hard. He made personal sacrifices for the benefit of others. Whenever we needed a dean's rep, we were all Bongani, and he seldom said no. And like any hero, he carried a burden of responsibility. He carried the burden of our ambitions, goals, hopes, and dreams. We could project our loftiest ideals of character onto him. But we can also forget that whether it's Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, or Bongani Mayosi, we are always just human beings. All of us here today, VC, ministers, academics, students, family, friends, all just human beings, both flawed and divine. And the most poignant thing we can learn from any hero is that they are human. Thank you to all of you for being here. Thank you to the speakers and the musicians. And thank you especially to the family for allowing us to have Bongani as our colleague. The extent of the turnout today reflects how he has touched and influenced so many lives. Dear Bongani, fellow Dean, hero, master of many. Uambe gakuhle, ulala ngoxolo.
Many in the UCT community and the wider community have taken the time to send messages of love and support to the Mayosi family and to the University of Cape Town. I'm sure that the family appreciates this, and so too UCT. I ask you now to please stand as the family and their close friends will leave the venue through the main door, and the rest of us will also leave the venue one row at a time, please, to avoid congestion. And the side doors are also being opened, so those doors are also exit points. So the Mayosi family will now leave the venue, and we remain standing until they have exited. Thank you very much, and good afternoon.